The 4 stages of transmutation. Welcome to the myth of the fallen ones. I am Elnad El Kasmenaay. Here, we do not chase spectacle. We practice precision. We remember what our ancestors knew before the world was divided into separate rooms called science, spirit, and story, that the human being is a living laboratory, and that real knowledge is earned the way gold is earned, by heat, by patience, by refusal to lie. This channel is a threshold to that work. Our aim is not escape, but embodiment. We listen for the law that threads through sorrow and joy, and we train ourselves to cooperate with it. Tonight we turn to a map older than any single culture, and as current as the next breath, the 4 stages of transmutation. Alchemists named them Nigredo, Albedo, Citrinitas, and Rubedo. These are not instructions for metals. They are instructions for becoming. They describe what every deep change must pass through: dissolution, purification, illumination, and integration. Think of them as 4 colors of one fire, 4 seasons of one interior climate. You have met them before, perhaps in crisis, perhaps in healing, perhaps in the quiet moment when the truth finally spoke louder than your defense. We will enter them one by one, not as tourists of marvels, but as apprentices of language and law. Let your attention be the bellows. Let your honesty be the fuel. Let the work begin where you actually are. 1. Nigredo, the blackening. Every honest beginning looks like an ending. Nigredo is that hour when the scaffolding fails, the names won't hold, and the room smells of smoke. It is not a punishment. It is a preparation. The life you built on borrowed certainties loosens, and what you called me starts to melt. The mind searches for exits. The body knows there aren't any. Grief appears without permission. Old angers, once kept in polite jars, rattle their lids. Longing that never fit the calendar knocks with both hands. The temptation is to tidy the ruins or to declare the building cursed. Do neither. Sit among the bricks. Study the cracks. You are learning the first law of the work. What was never true cannot survive the fire that proves what is. In this phase, the shadow arrives, not as enemy, but as bookkeeper. It brings ledgers of unlived life. Talents you postponed, questions you avoided, truths you diluted to remain liked. It is tempting to call this darkness evil. It is more accurate to call it unpaid. Nigredo is the time for paying. Pay with attention, not condemnation. Pay with accuracy, not melodrama. When fear whispers, "You are being destroyed," answer, "Only what is false burns." If you stay long enough, your eyes adjust. You begin to make out shapes in the dark, regrets that were actually instructions, mistakes that were raw material, endings that were unacknowledged beginnings. The ash underfoot is fertile. Rot is a kind of truth-telling. The ego does not enjoy this lesson, but the soul draws breath here for the first time in years. Nigredo teaches humility, and humility is simply accurate weight. It returns your center to your chest. That returning hurts. Let it. Do not hurry to rebuild. Haste makes replicas. Stillness allows originals. When you finally rise, you will not rise triumphant. You will rise exact. The work can proceed because you have stopped lying to yourself. 2. Albedo, the whitening. Where the blackening cooked, the whitening cleanses. Albedo is the hour of water, the cool intelligence that follows flame. Tears come first, evidence that something alive remains beneath the ash. Then a different clarity, the kind that arrives when you stop dramatizing pain and begin learning from it. In Albedo, you no longer ask, "Who is to blame?" You ask, "What is the pattern and what is my part in it?" You discover that forgiveness is not softness, it is sanitation. It removes infection from the wound so healing can proceed. The mind becomes a mirror that has been washed, still reflecting the world, but without the old grease of projection. You notice your favorite stories about yourself and others, and you notice how those stories shape your seeing. Some dissolve in the basin at once. Others require soaking, hours of quiet attention in which the stain surrenders molecule by molecule. Albedo asks you to separate gold from dross, not with contempt, but with care. Keep what is alive. Release what is merely loyal to your fear. In practice, this looks like small, faithful acts that restore proportion. Sleeping when your body asks instead of proving invincibility. Telling one clean truth where you would have performed 1,000. Apologizing without theater and without delay. White is not the absence of color. It is the inclusion of every color. In the same way, albedo is not the denial of shadow. It is shadow understood, shadow integrated until it no longer needs to sabotage you for attention. A quiet joy appears here, not giddy, not fragile. It feels like standing in a clean room after long labor, aware that there is more work to do, but grateful for a floor that does not stick to your step. You begin to trust your perception again. You begin to trust your breath. The furnace is still warm behind you. The river runs through you. You are not finished. You are ready. 3. Citrinitas, the yellowing. Between the silver of albedo and the red of rubedo is a color many forget to honor. Yellow, the color of awakening mind. Citrinitas is the dawn in which understanding learns to walk in daylight. Insight is no longer a passing visitor. It becomes housemate. You notice coherence where there was only noise. Dreams stop threatening and start instructing. Intuition and intellect, once adversaries, begin to share a desk. You recognize patterns that bind your days. The sentence that always starts a fight. The time of day your courage is most reliable. The particular flavor of fear that appears right before you make a clean choice. In Citrinitas, you learn to treat these as weather reports for the soul. You dress accordingly. You do not curse rain. You take a coat. You do not worship sun. You take water. A sober hope enters here, the kind that looks like responsibility. It says, if I know the pattern, I am obliged to respond to it. Understanding that does not become practice curdles into pride. So you practice. Knowledge is converted to movement. This conversion is slow, like dawn crossing a field. But you feel it in your posture, in the hour you begin, in the way your no grows gentle and precise. Citrinitas also expands your sense of belonging. You begin to perceive correspondence everywhere, how your impatience makes others rush and stumble, how your steadiness makes a room recover its breath, how the sentence you truly mean often arrives on someone else's tongue. Synchronicities cluster, useful, shy, unadvertised. Do not turn them into trophies. Treat them as footnotes from the living text of reality. Continue, revise, look again. The danger here is intoxication with light. The mind loves the feeling of being illuminated and may mistake it for being complete. Keep humility as your boundary. Bow often to the unanswered question, to the mystery that refuses to be domesticated, to the person who disagrees with you and still gives you their attention. Yellow is not noon, it is morning. Keep moving toward service. Keep moving toward the ordinary, where revelation either becomes bread or becomes a boast. 4. Rubedo, the reddening. At last, the work ripens into warmth you can share. Rubedo is the reddening, the color of integration and embodied love. Here, the opposites do not battle for your allegiance. They collaborate. The part of you that seeks heaven honors the part of you that must buy groceries. The instinct that once hijacked you becomes an ally with a job to do. Your body is no longer an obstacle to purity. It is purity's instrument. The red king and the white queen, the active and the receptive, learn each other's timing. The result is not perfection, it is proportion. You feel it as a rightness in your day, the sentence that lands without poison, the boundary that holds without spectacle, the generosity that does not mortgage tomorrow. In Rubedo, Work becomes worship without becoming performance. The floor you sweep is not a metaphor. It is a floor. The care with which you sweep it is the metaphor and also the prayer. You no longer need to choose between sacred and ordinary. You carry one into the other until the seam dissolves. This integration changes how you meet the world's pain. You are less shocked by it, more useful to it. Compassion matures into clarity. You can say no without contempt, yes without self-erasure. You do not compete with another's suffering. You collaborate with their dignity. The scars you earned in earlier stages do not disappear. They glow. They remind you that the fire is covenant, not spectacle. They keep you from preaching transformation as a shortcut. Rubedo also restores enchantment to matter. You notice wood as slow fire, water as patient mirror, stone as condensed time. You take responsibility for small things because you have learned they are not small. A letter answered on time, a promise kept without fanfare, a tool cleaned and returned. This is how the reddened life reveals its color, in acts that do not beg applause because the applause is built into the act. If Nigredo asked you to die and Albedo asked you to wash and Citrinitas asked you to understand, Rubedo asks you to return. Return to the street. Return to the table. Return to the task you avoided. Bring your heat as tenderness. Bring your accuracy as mercy. Bring your faith as the willingness to carry one more corner of the common load. This is the philosopher's stone in motion. Not a shining object in a cabinet, but a way of moving through hours that leaves other people warmer and more exact. 5. The light that remains. Conclusion. When the colors settle, what remains is neither argument nor ornament, but a quality of presence that does not need to explain itself. You recognize it in those who have suffered without becoming hard, in those who have succeeded without becoming hollow, in those who say little and mean much. The great work does not end. It circulates. Each day contains its own small Nigredo, its own rinsing Albedo, its own clarifying Citrinitas, its own reddened Rubedo. The point is not to race through them, but to recognize them and cooperate. When darkness returns, and it will, do not panic. You have the lamp of experience now. When washing calls for patience, do not pretend speed. When light offers understanding, convert it to service. When union invites you back to the ordinary, take the invitation and do one thing beautifully. This is how the work continues, through exact, merciful acts that appear common and are not. You will be tempted to measure your progress by applause. Resist. Applause comes and goes with fashion. Weight remains. Let your life convince by weight. Let the rooms you leave behind feel, even faintly, like they remember their better arrangement because you were there. Know finally what your ancestors wanted you to know, that the law, as above, so below, as within, so without, is not mystical decoration but workable instruction. Align your interior and the exterior responds, not like a machine but like a living friend, sometimes instantly, sometimes over years, always toward coherence. Keep a vow you can keep, to keep the flame honest. Feed it with what is false until only what is faithful can endure. Trade drama for depth. Trade speed for heat. Trade certainty for sincerity. When someone asks what you are doing with your days, answer in a sentence that would still be true if no one heard it. When you forget, and you will, begin again with breath. Name what is here. Separate what is true from what is noise. Purify by admitting what hurts, without making it a god. Unite by returning your attention to the task within reach. This is the loop of the work, tight as prayer, wide as the world. You do not need a perfect life to practice it. You need a willing one. I am Elnad El Kasmenaay. This is the myth of the fallen ones. If you carry only one ember from this chapter, let it be this. The fire you seek is already in your keeping. The furnace stands behind the ribs. The bellows are your breath. The law is older than language and simple enough to live today, as above, so below, as within, so without. Tend the flame and let your life be the proof.